There was once a city where sunlight barely touched the ground, a place where 50,000 people lived stacked on top of each other. Inside a space smaller than a few football fields, no police, no real government, no urban planning, just endless corridors, dripping pipes, tangled electrical wires, and thousands of lives trapped inside concrete walls. To outsiders, it looked like a nightmare. To the people inside, it was home. This was Kowloon Walled City, a lawless maze hidden in the heart of Hong Kong. For decades, rumors spread across the world. People spoke of illegal dentists operating without licenses, factories hidden in apartments, drug dens controlled by criminal gangs, children running across rooftops because the streets below were too dark and crowded. But behind the terrifying reputation, there was another story, a story of survival, of community, and of a city so unique that nothing like it has ever existed before or since. This is the Forgotten Files. The origins of Kowloon Walled City stretch back centuries, long before the skyscrapers of Hong Kong dominated the skyline. This area was a Chinese military fort. Its purpose was simple: protect the coast from pirates and foreign influence. Massive stone walls surrounded the settlement. Soldiers guarded the entrances. Cannons overlooked the water. But history was about to change everything. In 1898, Britain leased the new territories from China for 99 years. Almost all of Hong Kong fell under British control, except for one strange exception: Kowloon Walled City. Technically, the area still belonged to China, but China had almost no real power there, and Britain avoided interfering too much because of political tensions. The result? A legal gray zone, a place where neither side truly governed. At first, only a few hundred people lived there, but after World War II and the Chinese Civil War, refugees flooded into Hong Kong. 2000s desperately searched for shelter, and inside the walled city, nobody asked questions. Buildings began rising higher and higher. Families constructed apartments directly on top of existing structures. No permits, no architects, no safety inspections. Concrete was poured wherever there was a space. Metal staircases connected random hallways. Pipes leaked through ceilings. Electric cables spread like spiderwebs. The city expanded upward until airplanes flying into Kai Tak Airport passed terrifyingly close overhead. Pilots could almost see directly into apartment windows. By the 1980s, Kowloon Walled City had become the most densely populated place on Earth. Entering Kowloon Walled City felt like stepping into another world. The narrow alleys were so tight, sometimes two people could barely walk past each other. Water constantly dripped from old pipes. Neon lights flickered in the darkness. The smell of cooking oil mixed with mold, humidity, cigarettes, and industrial smoke. Many apartments were impossibly small. Entire families lived inside rooms barely larger than a parking space. Yet somehow, life continued. Children went to school. Neighbors shared meals. Workers woke up every morning and opened tiny businesses hidden deep inside the maze. Factories produced noodles, fish balls, plastic products, and metal parts. Small shops sold groceries and medicine. Some dentists operated without official licenses because healthcare was too expensive outside. For poor residents, these illegal clinics were sometimes the only affordable option. At rooftop level, the city looked completely different because the streets below were so cramped and dark. Rooftops became gathering spaces. Children played there, families relaxed there. People escaped the claustrophobic corridors below to finally breathe fresh air. Despite its terrifying reputation, Many former residents later described the walled city as strangely peaceful. Most ordinary people simply wanted to survive. They protected each other. They formed tight communities. But that doesn't mean the darker stories were false, because hidden inside the maze, criminal organizations also flourished. During the 1950s and 1960s, Hong Kong's infamous triad gangs expanded their influence inside Kowloon Walled City. The absence of strong law enforcement made the area perfect for illegal activities. Underground gambling houses appeared. Drug dens operated in secret rooms. Prostitution networks spread through hidden apartments. For years, many residents feared speaking openly. The gangs controlled parts of the city through intimidation and violence. Police rarely entered without large groups, and when they did, suspects could disappear within seconds. The maze-like structure made escape incredibly easy. Hallways connected unpredictably. Secret staircases linked buildings together. Some passages were so confusing that outsiders became lost almost immediately. Journalists who entered the city often described feeling disoriented after only minutes. The deeper they walked, the darker it became. Natural sunlight barely reached the lower floors because the buildings were packed so tightly together. In some areas, fluorescent lights stayed on 24 hours a day. The city became surrounded by myths. People outside imagined it as a giant criminal fortress. Movies and media exaggerated the danger, and although crime certainly existed, reality was more complicated. Most residents were workers, parents, and children. They were not gangsters. They were simply poor people living in a place the rest of society ignored. Over time, even the triads began losing influence. By the 1970s, Hong Kong police increased raids and cracked down on organized crime. Conditions slowly improved. Community organizations and charities also started helping residents, but the city itself was becoming impossible to ignore. It had grown into an unstable concrete monster. Five and authorities knew it could not last forever. By the 1980s, Kowloon Walled City had reached its final form. More than 300 interconnected buildings stood packed together. Some rose up to 14 stories high. The entire city occupied only around 2.6 hectares. Yet tens of thousands of people lived inside. Experts warned constantly about fire hazards. Electrical systems were dangerously improvised. Water pipes leaked everywhere. Ventilation was terrible, and emergency services struggled to navigate the maze. One major fire could have become a catastrophe. Still, people continued adapting. Residents created their own systems. Neighbors repaired pipes together. Families shared electricity. Businesses supported local communities. There was even an unspoken order inside the chaos. Many visitors were shocked by how normal daily life actually felt. Women prepared food in tiny kitchens. Children laughed while running across rooftops. People watched television, played cards, and celebrated holidays. Human life persisted in conditions many believed impossible. 6 photographers who documented the city became obsessed with its atmosphere. The endless corridors, the exposed wiring, the feeling that a civilization had evolved separately inside a sealed concrete labyrinth. Some described it as cyberpunk before cyberpunk existed, a real-life dystopia. And eventually, governments decided its time was over. And in 1987, Britain and China announced a decision. Kowloon Walled City would be destroyed. Residents would be relocated. The dangerous maze would disappear forever. Not everyone accepted the plan. Many people had spent their entire lives there. Despite the terrible conditions, it was still their home. Businesses operated there, families had memories there, communities existed there. But demolition preparations moved forward. Compensation programs attempted to relocate residents into public housing. Gradually, families left, apartments emptied, hallways fell silent. Then came the bulldozers. Between 1993 and 1994, the city was systematically demolished. Concrete walls collapsed, corridors disappeared, the rooftops where children once played vanished forever. One of the strangest urban environments in human history was erased. Today, a peaceful park stands where the walled city once existed. Trees grow where towering apartments once blocked the sunlight. Tourists walk calmly through gardens without realizing what once stood there. Only a few preserved artifacts remain: fragments of walls, historical displays, photographs, and memories from former residents. But even decades later, Kowloon Walled City continues haunting popular culture. Its influence appears in movies, video games, anime, architecture, and cyberpunk fiction. Because the city represented something deeper than chaos, it represented what humans create when abandoned by systems of power. A city born from political uncertainty, built illegally, expanded endlessly, and somehow kept alive by the people inside. Kowloon Walled City was never supposed to exist. By every normal standard, it should have collapsed long before it did. Yet for decades, thousands of people built lives there. Some remember fear, others remember freedom, many remember community. The world saw a nightmare, but for the residents, it was simply reality, a place where survival mattered more than comfort, where people adapted to impossible conditions, where humanity continued growing inside darkness and concrete. Today, the walled city is gone, demolished, buried beneath gardens and pathways, but its story still fascinates millions because it forces one uncomfortable question. What happens when society forgets a place completely? Sometimes something terrifying emerges, and sometimes something strangely human. This was Kowloon Walled City, and this was another file the world almost forgot. If you enjoyed this episode of the Forgotten Files, subscribe for more abandoned places, forgotten disasters, hidden mysteries, and lost worlds erased by history. New files every week, because some places should never be forgotten.